On the big story this morning, I have two lawyers. One is a lawyer that went to court saying, look, General Kayihura should not be taken to court, and that's Robert Rutaro. He petitioned court.
Yeah, sure.
You are saying that the Constitutional Court, that General Kayihura should not appear in court for these charges, etc., etc. We'll try and throw light on that. The other lawyer is Asuman Basalirwa. He's one of those that want to prosecute General Kayihura. Good morning.
Good morning.
Robert, let me begin with you. General Kayihura is taken to court. Why? Because of these shenanigans. I think there are actually a lot more than shenanigans that did happen. People get beaten. He calls a press conference and he gives a green light, condones whatever it is that happened, and it looked like he's the one who had given the command for these officers to beat up these supporters of Dr. Kiza, basically. You're saying he should not be prosecuted. Why?
No, well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be appearing on any TV show this morning. I think we are not in court to challenge the prosecution of the accused persons per se. We went to the Constitutional Court to have some questions arising out of the criminal proceedings, of course, where General Kayihura and his colleagues are involved, but some questions which are of constitutional concern. Okay?
What are those questions?
One of such questions is something to do with the fundamental right of fair hearing, which is guaranteed in the Constitution under Article 28.
I thought that's what is going to happen in court. That's why they're taking him to court, so that he gets to have a fair hearing.
No, this right to fair hearing specifically puts it that any person accused of a criminal offense must be given all information, must be afforded all facilities to enable this person prepare his defense. Must be given all the information concerning the offense with which he's being charged, so that he can know exactly what is at stake, and so he knows how to prepare his defense. But
how do you know that General Kayihura is not in that place? Are you his assistant? I know you are an NRM member. You actually work at the NRM Secretariat.
That's right.
So I'm trying to look at the nexus between now you and General Kayihura. You his personal assistant. How did you know that all that wasn't tick for him?
I'm only into this as a private party and a concerned citizen with the interest of defending the Constitution. Because I will not let anything go that is unconstitutional go unfettered.
No, what you're saying
as a lawyer,
is you went to court for certain questions to be answered, among which for him to have all the available information, facilities, etc., etc.
Because what happened,
how do you know he doesn't have them? Did he tell you so?
Absolutely. No, it doesn't have to tell me so. I looked at the charge sheet. And when I looked at the charge sheet, which I believe my brother Asuman had a hand in it, the charge sheet talks of the offense of torture, but does not break down what torture was committed. You get what I mean? And for us, our question for the Constitutional Court is that violates the right of fair hearing of the accused persons, not giving them the specific acts of torture that were committed.
All right.
How are they going to come in? How are they going to defend themselves? What exactly is it that they committed? Call it torture.
All right. Asuman, you are prosecuting General Kayihura as an individual. I don't know to what extent we will need to be careful so that we don't break the sub judice rule.
Sure.
What is General Kayihura's crime? What we keep playing out on NTV here are images of police officers that beat up people, where I think I would not let General Kayihura off the hook is because he didn't call these guys to order. He seemed to condone what they did. But you are blaming him for torture, etc., etc. What exactly is his crime?
No, I think you need to understand the history of this prosecution. When Mr. Museveni and General Kayihura's team came to power, Uganda had ratified the UN Convention Against Torture, Inhuman and Degrading Treatment. I think it was one of the first international instruments to be ratified by Mr. Museveni's government as early as 1987. It was only in 2012 that Parliament enacted the Prevention and Prohibition of the Torture Act. So since that time, we didn't have a law on torture. Now, in that law, specifically Section 8 of the Anti-Torture Act of Uganda, it clearly stipulates who is criminally liable. And there are two circumstances under which somebody can be criminally liable. One, the person who directly perpetrates the torture. the one who beats, the one who slaps, okay? The one who inflicts that pain. It could be physical, it could be psychological. The second category is a person who recommends, who supports, who orders, who aids, who abets, who finances. And that's what Section 8 says. So General Kayihura is being prosecuted on the basis of Section 8. What did he do? One, he supported. Number two, he recommended. Number three, he ordered. Number four, he aided and abetted. And where do we get that evidence? In his own words, aired by NTV, General Kayihura is on record for having approbated what happened in Najanankumbi, what happened in Kalerwe, and by extension, what happened in Mukono. So General Kayihura was not at the scene. But the law says, for you to be prosecuted, you don't have to be at the scene. If it is proved, for example, that the sticks that were used in torturing were procured by my young brother here, okay, and there is that evidence, he will be prosecuted, even if he was not at the site. If it is proved that the money for buying the sticks was provided by Basalirwa, Basalirwa will be prosecuted. So the prosecution is either, will arise out of the direct actions of an individual or indirect actions. Now, when you are a commander, for example, in the case of General Kayihura, you are a commander, okay? And your junior staff, you junior officers are engaged in acts of torture. And you come out to support those acts, to commend them, to praise them. The law says you are criminally liable.
All right.
So I have seen these arguments, by the way, pedestrian arguments. Kayihura was not at the site. Why is he being taken to court? But unfortunately, the arguments are being made in ignorance of the law.
Let me get back to Robert. Two questions here. The men that beat up FDC Kizza Besigye's supporters at Najanakumbi and elsewhere, one, do you not think what they did was wrong? But two, when their overall commander, General Kayihura, comes, national television and says what they did is actually a good thing, they were trying to clear the road and the like, that man, does he not have a case to answer?
Well, I just mentioned one of the questions I've taken to the Constitutional Court, and I said there are three questions.
First, answer my two questions.
Absolutely.
One of the gentlemen, the police officers that beat the supporters, and then General Kayihura.
And that's where I'm coming exactly. Our second question is whether the charging of police officers for acts arising out of execution of their lawful duties does not contravene their constitutional right and mandate as given under Article 2 and 2.
There's such a thing as individual liability.
Absolutely, but you see, you can't have such a thing when it contravenes the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Any other law, just as my brothers put it, which contravenes the Constitution is null and void.
Are you saying the Constitution doesn't provide for individual liability, that just because I've gotten a command, I'm a police officer, yes, go and kill this Rutaro man, I come and kill you, only my commander is answerable and not me?
Well, no, it does, but only as far as it's within the constitutional mandate, the boundaries of what is provided under the constitution. Now,
so if I get you right, you're saying the men that beat up the FDC supporters don't have a case to answer, according to you?
No, that's
I want to be sure I get you right.
That's where I'm coming. What happened is the bail which Kano Besigye was given, when you look at one of its bail conditions, clearly states, actually it's condition number 3, that Kano Besigye must desist from any further acts of defiance.
That's a different story altogether. Call it defiance, whatever it is that has happened. But these gentlemen have been beaten. These are border riders. Some of them were innocently there.
How did
by standards on the road as Besigye was going, they were being beaten.
But you see
the police officers that did this, do you not think they have a case to answer?
No, but you see, they may also have an argument. I'm not their lawyer, by the way. I don't want to be mistaken.
As an observer on the peripheral.
Absolutely, as an observer. These guys may have the defense of having done whatever they did in the within their constitutional mandate of prevention, detection and prevention of crime, or keeping law, peace and order. Because Dr. Besigye was clearly in breach of the constitutional condition, the bail conditions which were granted.
How so?
He's doing it
there are these guys that were just coming out of their homes,
I don't know why somebody has not taken tried to challenge Dr. Besigye's bail to be cancelled.
Robert, let's talk about the people that were actually coming out of their homes. Besigye is on his way to his house in Kasangati. People come on the road to just look at this man. Some inquisitively, some his supporters, rightly so, and those people are being beaten.
But
their crime is defiance. How so? I'm trying to get that it's not coming through.
What we have been told by the police, and you know we have to give the police the benefit of doubt. We don't have to criminalize the police the way Mr. Basalirwa wants us to do. These guys have told us, these people who came, who are company based, they had criminal intention. They had criminal intention.
The ones that came out of their houses when he was passing by.
Whoever was his SJ and all these people who are involved in this whole fracas, majority of them, as General Kayihura put it or explained on TV, had criminal intention of disrupting traffic, of disrupting business, of causing mayhem generally on the road.
And so,
the
verdict was, let's cane them.
Police came in to prevent and take crime, keep law and order. And that's within their constitutional mandate. So that's the one question I've taken to the Constitutional Court. If a policeman has committed any act arising in due execution, in lawful execution of his duties as a police officer, which are mandated under the Constitution, how is it criminally liable? Should it be criminally liable? Forget about the Torture Act. Because the Torture Act must be in consonance, in line with the Constitution. So these are some of the questions I've taken to the Constitutional Court. And we hope definitely they'll be interpreted in our favor. We hope.
Asuman, do you see a place where, do you see us get to a place where people begin to take individual responsibility? I think it's the first time that we see police officers individually being held culpable, those that beat up people, and now you're suing General Kayihura as an individual and not as even a police officer or the head of police in this case. Are we getting there? Because, you know, if it is that I'm doing my job and whatever it is that I'm doing should get back to headquarters, then I can do it in such a wanton manner.
Let me make two clarifications first. Number one, on the point he raised earlier on, that you see, fair trial means disclosure, okay? At what point do you ask for disclosure? In law, you ask for disclosure of information against you after you have been formally charged. You come to court, you take plea. For example, if you plead guilty, there is no need for disclosure. If you don't plead guilty, then you go for a full trial. It is at that point that you pray to court to be availed with all information that is intended to be used against you. You cannot ask for disclosure if you have not subjected yourself to a court process. So General Kayihura cannot be complaining, or another person cannot be complaining on his behalf for failure to disclose if he has not subjected himself to a court process. So I thought I would clarify that. Number two, the issue of keeping law and order. When you read the Anti-Torture Act, it's very clear. First of all, let's go to the Constitution, Article 44. Torture is a non-derogable right. Okay? At no
Torture
instance,
Non-derogable.
non-derogable. At no instance is anybody allowed to torture a person. At no instance. So you cannot even quote the Constitution to justify torture. Torture in itself is an offense. And the Anti-Torture Act tells you that not even in times of political instability, emergency, war, is anybody allowed to torture another person. It's non-derogable. And that's what Article 44 says. So a police officer, an army officer, or an individual, by the way, the law even envisages individuals, okay? An individual cannot in any way torture another person as a way of keeping law and order, as a way of maintaining peace. It is not allowed. It's not permissible. And we must be very careful. International law tells you there is a known principle, pacta santa servanda. We have a duty as a country to obey our obligations under international law. Uganda is a signatory to an international instrument against torture. You are not going to hide under your municipal responsibilities under internal courts to circumvent your obligations under international law. And the International Court of Justice has given advice on this. A country cannot hide under its constitution, under its municipal laws, to circumvent its obligations under international law. So at nowhere and at no time will a police officer, an army officer, or an individual use disorder to justify torture. The Constitution, our Constitution does not allow it. The Prevention of Torture Act does not allow it. You are talking about individual criminal liability, okay? When you read the Anti-Torture Act, it has two things. Number one, a police officer who is being commanded by a superior to torture is not under an obligation to obey the superior orders. And it's very clear. So you cannot go to court and say, I tortured so and so because I had been ordered by my superior. Superior orders are not a defense in the case of torture. Number two, where a junior officer is instructed to torture and he does not, then is free from liability. He does not face any sanctions. Now, this idea of private prosecution, by the way, is not new. Our constitution provides for it. The Magistrates Courts Act is there. The Trial and Indictments Act is there. Even in the Anti-Torture Act, it is there. You can take out private prosecution. But the Constitution allows the DPP to take them over. Now, individual liability, by the way, the Constitutional Court, where they are going, has already made a ruling on it. Individual police officers, individual army officers who are found to be offending the law must now be brought to court over and above the Attorney General and other officers. The Constitutional Court has already made a decision on that. So what we are witnessing now, by the way, is not new. In that torture and torture law, there are 4 aspects you can do if you are aggrieved. If you are tortured, you can go and report to police. You can go and report to Human Rights Commission. Or you can go directly to court. Those are the 3 avenues provided. So where you are comfortable with is where you go. These people were comfortable with the courts, they went to court. Another person could have gone to the Human Rights Commission. So individual prosecution is perfectly okay. It happens, but as we said, under our constitution, the DPP has a mandate. So what that means is that police officers, army officers will no longer hide under carrying out their constitutional duties. Because you see, he's talking about being prosecuted for carrying out a lawful duty. The law is very clear. The law on arrest, the law on dispersal, it talks about using proportional force, not excessive force. Tell me, somebody is in a trench. He has fallen in a trench with his border. He's already subdued, by the way. And you are still hitting that person. What is the objective?
Let me get back to Robert here. Robert, the NRM which you belong to brought the rule of law back to this country. Sure. And the president has bragged one time too many that this country is ruled by law. All is well. And so I'm thinking, what is so wrong with General Kayihura going before courts of law, subjecting himself to that? Yeah. Away from, you know, all these clarifications that you want. He goes before court, there's rule of law in this country and everything is clarified. If he's innocent, he's expunged, he's exonerated, you know, away from the confusion that we are seeing, you know. People don't want him to court, and then all these brigands who were hired by God knows who, looks like it was by him, I don't know, and they're beating up people, lawyers, and they're saying, no, we don't want him to come to court, and I'm thinking, what nonsense is this? What's wrong with him going to court if he's a law-abiding citizen? He's a lawyer, by the way.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with General Kayihura appearing before the court. And I'm sure, as far as we are concerned, the law of the land in Uganda is that nobody is above the law. And there is nobody who is exempt from prosecution of any kind, criminal or civil, other than one person, who is the president of Uganda. But you see, the case of General Kayihura is a unique case. Unique in a way that the complainants in this matter have turned away or veered off the legal perspective of it and have gone political on the matter.
What do you mean by that?
For me, I think that's the uniqueness I see in this particular case.
Clarify, elucidate on what you mean by they've gone political.
That they've made this case look like a political case. That's why you see...
And what's wrong with that?
That's why you see people like Dr. Besigye, people like Rutaro, I've not seen as smart. They are busy mobilizing the entire country. Come to Makindye, come and see.
So you're saying these people that were beating up journalists and these lawyers were mobilized by Dr. Besigye?
No, and I'm talking about the court yesterday. So what happened is, you don't have a monopoly of mobilization. If Besigye thinks he can come and mobilize people to come and humiliate General Kayihura, Kayihura is not an ordinary man. He has his own supporters.
So-
People believe in him.
All right, so you're conceding that
Kayihura's
General Kayihura
people-
mobilized these people
To counter.
that committed what I think is a crime.
don't know.
They beat up journalists. I'm
What-
sure you know that.
what
They
I'm-
beat up
what-
these lawyers. They vandalized their cars.
What-
Those were mobilized by Kayihura,
Yes.
and it's okay, you're saying.
No, Joel, what I'm not sure of is whether General Kayihura is involved in this or not. But what I know for sure is that those people who were at the court yesterday demonstrating were demonstrating in support of General Kayihura. So for me, I think these guys, Mr. Besigye, Asman, were simply beaten at their own game. They
Okay.
thought they would mobilize people to come to the court, humiliate General Kayihura, and Kayihura's people said, no, we can't do that. We can actually defeat you even in that.
Let me be
So
sure
they
I'm getting
mobilized
you right,
more than
Robert.
what these guys mobilized.
You seem
So
to be
the-
condoning what happened at the courts yesterday, that journalists were beaten up. Why? Because they were covering, actually they were looking for we NTV journalists, our people that were there to beat them up. Why? Because apparently we portray General Kayihura in bad light whenever I carry stories about police brutality and the like. They didn't get us, they beat other journalists whom they thought were NTV journalists. These lawyers who were beaten, you saw how they were roughed up. One of their lawyers, their car was vandalized. You are saying that's okay. It was
see,
mobilization either by Kayihura or his people
Legal
to
matters,
try and outsmart the other people.
legal-
And it's okay what they did. Yes or no?
Legal matters, Joel, are handled legally, and political matters are handled politically.
Is it okay what these people did yesterday?
So if you want the court in Makindye to proceed with this matter peacefully, in order and in peace, then you must desist from political mobilization, which Kano
I
Besigye
still
is
want
doing.
to hear you
But why
on
is
whether
Kano-
or not what these people did
But
was
why is
correct.
Kano Besigye in this?
No,
Where
what-
is Kano
what-
Besigye in this?
Regardless of who
What-
mobilized, let's imagine
Yes.
Besigye, Lukwago mobilized people to beat them themselves. That's okay. That can be debated, yeah. But whatever was done, was that correct?
it
Of course,
wasn't.
for you, you're saying these were mobilized by either Kayihura or his people.
I'm not sure. I said, and I want to repeat.
But you're saying
I
that
don't
they
know
outsmarted the
involvement of-
Basalirwas at
I
their game.
I don't know the involvement of General Kayihura, but answering your question directly, I think what was done, I mean, the hooliganism of it is not good. This guy should have come to the court, and I saw a letter. I saw something on WhatsApp where they were seeking permission from police to demonstrate, and actually they got the permission. If what I saw on WhatsApp is to go by a letter. Now, if they got the permission to come and demonstrate, the letter was very clear that keep law and order, keep peace. So I think what they did to go, to become violent, that was uncalled for.
I hope police will prosecute them since they gave them a go-ahead to do this peacefully. Asuman, the DPP wants to take over this case, and you are objecting to that. Why?
No, we are not. They were told to make a formal application, and we will respond to the formal application. But you see, look at the history of the DPP in taking over cases and how successful he has been. So the objection is not made out of the blue, okay? I want you to give
the competence of the DPP.
No. You are a problem. This young man, I don't think he appreciates these things well. When an application is made, you object, okay? And you know I am in court. I do it every day. You object. So an objection to an application is a normal court procedure, okay? And the objection is given on the basis of facts. So you begin to ask questions. How many, the DPP is an office, it's not an individual. How many cases have been taken over by the DPP, emerging from private prosecutions, and that office has successfully prosecuted them? You can ask that question. And by the way, that can be a strong ground of objection. If all cases you are taking over, you don't successfully prosecute them to their logical conclusion, either you withdraw along the way, or you are defeated along the way and you don't even appeal, there is all room to suspect you, okay? So you don't have to take over. You have a right, you have a mandate, okay? But I also have a right to object. And certainly we'll be giving court these examples, that they took over the Elizabeth Putetha's case, the one who was CID, which emerged from a private prosecution. We know what happened. There are many others that have been taken over. We know what happened. So I think we will be making those arguments. But I personally have no problem, because you see, for me, I believe in the process, the due process. You want to take over, you have made an application, well and good. You have been summoned to court, you are General Kayihura, you come to court, okay? My brother is talking about Besigye Lukwago. Where is Besigye and Lukwago in this?
But who are the complainants?
Where
You
but
cannot
by the way,
disconnect these people.
No.
Who is the complainant in this matter? Is there M7 complainant in this matter?
Robert.
The guys who are complaining are the so-called Besigye supporters.
Yes.
Yes. So Besigye is part of the parcel. And
let's-
Besigye is on record mobilizing the public to come to the court.
Let me tell you. What does the law say? The law says a person who observes, a person who is a victim, has a right to complain. That's the law. So you cannot blame anybody for exercising his legal right.
Let me speak to you, gentlemen.
And two,
now
no. Let's first clear this. The public must know. How do you dissociate politics from this? The people who were beaten, were they coming from a football match? Were they coming from a music show?
So there is politics in this case.
And what is wrong with it?
All right.
Because you see,
talking of
no.
politics, let me now go the political angle.
Joel, what is wrong with the politics in this? I
All
want
right.
him to say it is a crime.
Let's have that clarified.
Let him
Gentlemen,
say.
all right.
By the way, me, I agree, I'm a politician.
And that's okay.
And when
He is a politician too.
Kayihura
Just a
does things
second, Asuman.
politically,
You
okay,
want to do them politically too.
he's not the first senior officer.
All right, Robert, let me speak to you now. Let me speak to the politician in you.
Demonstrating.
Let me speak to Robert Rutaro, the politician, and not the lawyer. In 2014, at the end of 2014, Mr. Museveni was invited to Makerere University by some youth for a political event. He couldn't make it. He sent General Kayihura to represent him. At that very rally, General Kayihura did campaign openly for President Museveni. He said, look, these people that say Museveni Agendewa is a very good leader here in Africa, we still want him. Where should he go? 2 months down the road, one Siraje Bakaleke, DPC Mukono, he was at a speech day at a school in Mukono. For him, he actually took it a notch higher, campaigning for Yoweri Museveni at that speech day. And here is where there seems to be a concern. I don't know if it's a concern to you. That General Kayihura is increasingly seen as a politician who is leaning towards your party, VNRM. Does that concern you? Because tomorrow, if you are in the opposition and there is a police officer in charge and he is leaning towards the ruling party, which might not be yours, that they will deal with you that way. And so the challenge here is that he seems to no longer be the competent, police officer, but a very competent politician. Does that not worry you?
No, if that were to be true, certainly it is
on record, so it's true.
It's a cause for concern. But you see, General Kayihura is a professional soldier. And I think what he does and the way he conducts himself and behaves himself, I think is one of the most professional soldiers we can talk about in this country.
Including the incident at Makerere in 2014.
And two, even when he said it recently, I believe him, that he's actually an asset to this country. You see, can you imagine a day without a police officer on the streets of Kampala? We all know the agenda of Asman. We all know the agenda and intention of Besigye. They want to take over the government. Okay, and we are in the government, we still want to hold on to power. You see, the thing is, so without a policeman on the street to keep law and order, Besigye just walk to work. Besigye will simply walk to State House and cause mayhem at State House. So, and that's not only even State House. Besigye will come and basically disturb the peace of the people of this country. And so the police have done a lot in as far as containing Besigye, one, but two, keeping law and order in this country. And for me, that's professionalism. When you're doing that, you're doing what you're mandated to do in the Constitution. You're not being politics. You're not being political.
My time is up. We need to wrap this up.
You're simply doing what you're supposed to do in the Constitution.
Asuman, General Kayihura did not show up in court. Some people feel he's not going to show up at all. What happens?
Well, it's the contradiction that my brother is talking about. As you see, he's supposed to keep law and order, maintain law and order, you follow the law. What kind of IGP are you who is summoned to court and you don't go? What message is he sending? If tomorrow I receive criminal summons, okay, will I go to court or not? Because, by the way, he exhibited the highest degree of impunity and contempt for court. He didn't have a lawyer in court.
He didn't summon him.
He didn't have a lawyer.
Did you serve him as should have been the case?
He didn't have summons.
Let me speak. You tell this young man.
I have a minute and a half to wrap
I'm a
this
lawyer
up.
and I'm a gentleman.
Did you serve
In
him?
court,
So please,
there was an affidavit of service,
address me
which is on
appropriately.
court record. Okay, that's the difference now between me and him. There was an affidavit of service which was put on court record. So anybody who wants to discuss service is just advised to go to court. And anybody who was in court yesterday, by the way, knows that lawyer Abdallah Chiwanuka presented an affidavit of service. It was on the basis of that affidavit of service that lawyer Abdallah Chiwanuka moved the court to have a warrant of arrest issued. Otherwise, what would be the basis of that submission? So I think the issue of service, anybody who is saying there was no service is just engaged in pedestrian talk. So the service was there is an affidavit of service, and that's the procedure. When you serve somebody, you swear an affidavit of service and file it on court record. So it is on court record. Well, if it is a forgery, then the police,
this has happened.
Then police will investigate. I'm just hearing it for the first time that it's a forgery. But you see, if it's a forgery, then we will see police will come and arrest Abdallah Chiwanuka. Finally, General Kayihura should be advised, and these people, okay? You can play around with the local courts, but if these acts of torture continue, they become nationwide. Prosecutions are carried out and they disregard the court processes. There is the international jurisdiction, okay? So we are only advising him. Kayihura is not the first person to be summoned to court. We were in the Supreme Court prosecuting Mr. Museveni in a presidential petition, okay? He sent lawyers. There were no goons at Supreme Court. The Tumukundes have been to court. The Sejusas have been to court. Lukwago and Besigye, who by any standards, by the way, are the most popular politicians in Kampala here, have been summoned to court. They have gone to court. So Kayihura is not an exception.
All right, I'm sure Kayihura has taken the advice.
Let him just appear in court. Because it's not above the law.
He will appear there as
very well said. Very well said.
Yes.
Thank you to the gentlemen, Robert Rutaro and Asuman Basalirwa. Lawyers, this is what happens in court sessions, eh? But thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up is my opinion. The last I checked, this country is not a jungle. It is a lawful country. It's not a lawless country. And I would like to think that the procedures of the law should take course. Look, if you are innocent, it's very possible, by the way, that General Kayihura is innocent. That's very possible. But that can only be proved in the courts of law. He normally arrests all these different politicians and they say we are innocent, and he says, look, you'll prove your innocence in court. General Kayihura, for heaven's sake, go to court and prove your innocence. Otherwise, everybody has made a conclusion in the court of public opinion, at least, that you are a guilty man. And look, it's also not possible that he did not hire these goons that we saw beating up people all over the place. That can only be proven in court, yeah, but at the end of the day, let's all be civil. I may disagree with you, but I should respect you. What's wrong with that? I hope it gets to happen. And that's it for today's edition of The Big Story. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joel Senyonyi.